Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are here for the Victory Road World Cup, sponsored by Elgato. My name's Ben Kiriakou, joined here by my good friend and co-commentator JJ. JJ, we had a very long match last game. How are you feeling after that set?
Well, I mean, even when it was a long match, right? Like we were able to see what's going through the minds of the players. Like nobody wanted to lose. Like even when both of the teams, right? Even when both of their teams are already basically guaranteed into the next stage, well, you still don't want to lose, especially when you're in the stream. So you got to do everything that you need to do to get the pride coming in, and I think that is what's going to be what we're going to be getting basically for the rest of today's matches as well.
Yeah, definitely. And going from a match where both teams have already qualified, we're going to be going into a slightly different dynamic here where we have a Japan versus Belgium. Japan have already made it through. We'll go on to the standings in just a moment. But Belgium, unfortunately, haven't done enough to qualify out of the group stage. So this is a little bit of a farewell to Belgium in this tournament. You can see them there, third in the standings at the moment, in front of the Dominican Republic. And of course, Brazil and Japan being the two teams that have definitely made it out of the group stages. So, it's going to be sad to see them go, but I'm really looking forward to, how they approach this match and equally how Japan approach the match because, when the pressure's off and even when you're on stream and you really want to do well, I think it's really important that, you give all of these matches your all because Pokemon's one of those games where you can just bounce back and keep playing, and there's that team morale and team spirit that's definitely behind everyone. I've definitely been definitely feeling that sort of vibe from everyone that I've been speaking to throughout this whole event so far. So we can see there Japan won their last two rounds, and definitely in poised position to go first place in the group into the next stage, the knockout stage of the tournament.
I just I just love basically what you just said, that Pokemon is one of the game where you might have you might not have a good day today, but like you can always jump back out whenever you want, and it's always going to welcome you back. You're the only one that's not going to welcome you back if you're not willing to welcome yourself back into the game. But as you just mentioned, this is now Belgium versus Japan, now leading with 3 points. Okay, leading now with 3 points ahead of Belgium.
Yeah, and some good picks there for really everyone there. Like seeing Eternatus, definitely not a fringe pick by any stretch, but Belgium bringing I think it's a really interesting Pokemon to use. It's got a lot of different dynamics to a lot of the different Pokemon that's there. And I really love everything that has access to Meteor Beam, this format. It's just such a fun move to use. But Japan taking all of these matches, looking like in a couple of them they had a little bit of the matchup advantage, but just able to win out 2-0, and really, in a lot of ways, doing just what Japan does in a lot of these tournaments. Always been a very, very strong team for VGC right since way back in the day. Used to always win the World Championships until the US came onto the scene in 2010, I believe it was, way back in the day. But they've always been, one of the countries to watch, and always love to see always love to see what they bring out because their teams are always a little bit different, a little bit interesting. And speaking of teams, we're going to go and see what Belgium has to offer us today.
Right, it is going to be Sydney Haegeman with the Kyogre, Incineroar, Tornadus, Regieleki. We have the Queen, Serena, and of course the Ditto. We have been seeing a lot of Dittos. Sometimes it's working pretty well for them, but sometimes they are getting baited out.
Yeah, you've got to be really careful how you switch in that Ditto. I've seen some of the more brave players lead it off into a particular slot and hope for the best. That's always quite fun to see how that actually impacts the game and whether or not they get it off or not. But we're seeing a pretty standard Kyogre core here. Kyogre and Tornadus as a pairing is pretty common, has been since right at the start of the format, paired with that Sarina to stop things like Grassy Glide, Rillaboom, and other bits of priority ruining Kyogre's day, especially when they're under that tailwind condition. Regieleki and Incineroar just patching up some matchups in there, but that Ditto is it can be a Shedinja, it can be a Ditto, it can be another Pokemon, but Ditto is one of the more fun picks, I think. That your opponent can never know exactly what to do when they see a Ditto. You've always got to do a little bit of guesswork and a little bit of thinking about what is going to be coming out next.
Right. For Japan, we have Yosuke Takayanagi, which is, I believe, they're also known as Yanagi. So I guess it'll be much easier for us to just call our player right here as Yanagi. And here we have some achievements here. Of course, the VOR circuit qualifier tree champion. So we are seeing a pretty good achievement here. Sydney, on the other hand, didn't have any notable achievements that we were able to show. But at this point on, just like what happened earlier, in our previous match, it doesn't mean that you don't have any notable achievements presented to you. Doesn't mean that you don't have any skills that you can show. You're already here in week number 3, got in here, so definitely you have a lot to offer to us. And right now, Yosuke is actually playing. Sorry, I said call the player Yanagi instead. Yanagi there instead call him Yosuke. But we are going to be seeing the Tornadoes, Kyogre. We have the Venusaur, Porygon, and we have the Urshifu as well, and of course the Torkoal. Of course, if Sydney has the standard Kyogre, this Yosuke Yanagi had the standard Sun team here from the Torkoal.
Yeah, and it's really, really interesting. This is what I love about Japan, is that they bring these sort of more interesting team archetypes, and they have a lot of synergies with their players that allow them to build these teams more effectively. A really good community over there. This sort of double-ended weather team where you have sun abusers and rain abusers is going to be really interesting to see, because it's down to Yanagi to decide on which weather that he wants to go for, and it looks like that's going to be a sun with that Porygon 2 and Venusaur hitting the field, and of course rain being the only option here for his opponent, where you've got the ability to just go for that Tailwind and Water Spout. Maybe you need to just stop that Porygon 2 setting up some Trick Room with Taunt if you have access to it. There we see on the Tornadus, and of course you've also got to stop that Venusaur setting up Sleep Powders, because that Torkoal could always come in, change that rain to sun, make that Venusaur the fastest Pokemon on the field, and if Tailwind doesn't go up at the same time, then Venusaur's going to be able to just launch out a Sleep Powder into whatever it wants.
Right, but we are going to be seeing some protect here from that off the Kyogre, and of course Taunt for the Tornadoes, not going to let the Porygon to do some setups, but of course there's also the Sleep Powder going to get protected, of course. And now with that move, with that turn alone, Sydney was able to get the information that yes, the Porygon 2 is going to go in for that off the Trick Room, but at the same time, as you mentioned, Torkoal could always just get in, and of course Chlorophyll is going to get activated, making Venusaur the fastest one in the field.
Yeah, and Yosuke is going to have to worry about the rain dance on Tornadus, or at least the potential of it. Obviously, Yosuke doesn't actually know whether that rain dance is going to come. Even if it does, Kyogre would make sure that stays on the field and has to take a Hurricane for its troubles. Kyogre on Sydney's side of the field going for a big Water Spout, nearly knocking out that Porygon 2. A critical hit by the looks of things. I was a little bit surprised that it did quite so much damage. And an Ice Beam going into Tornadus does a respectable amount of damage, but definitely not enough to pick up the KO. And now it's, unless the Kyogre on Yosuke's side of the field is going to be that Scarf variant, it's unlikely that it's going to be able to launch out any more attacks this turn before Sydney can just attack into it with another water spout and maybe even a tailwind of his own.
Right, but look at this though. Kyogre is going to go in for the protect, making sure that it actually lasts, last longer than Sydney's Pokemon here, but only if Porygon is going to be able to set up that Trick Room is this Kyogre from Yanagi is going to last. But as we can see, of course, the taunt is not going to let it happen. The Ice Beam is not going to be that big enough to take down the Tornadoes, and of course that huge Prankster coming in from the Tornadoes is doing a lot for Sydney right now, and Water Spout is just the last one, the pin, the last nail into that of the coffin into the Porygon too.
Yeah, and this game looks pretty much over here. I mean, there's an opportunity for Shifu that's just come in for Yosuke to go for a Sucker Punch into the Tornadus, maybe knock it out. But, you know, that Kyogre on Sydney's side of the field can just keep launching Water Spouts. With Tailwind that came up last turn, there's just so little that Yosuke has on his side of the field that can really do too much. I mean, you know, great that the Sucker Punch has now taken away the Tornadus threat, but you know, at the end of the day, you've still got if Torkoal's in the back, you're gonna just make your own Kyogre, the Kyogre on Sydney's side of the field not do as much, but it doesn't really need to do that much anymore. It's already done, had a couple of Water Spouts go onto the field. And it doesn't really matter what Sydney has or what Sydney has on his side of the field. Yosuke has on his side of the field. That Water Spout pressure has already done its job.
Right, and at this point, you know, we still have the Tailwind into the side of Sydney. Kyogre could just go in for the Water Spout once again. It's going to deal a lot of damage. Well, yes, it's going to be deal a lot of damage, especially with the boosted rain here, and of course going to be able to knock out this Urshifu as well, and making sure that their own Ditto, it's the Venusaur right now for Sydney is just going to be able to just focus all the damage going into that of the Venusaur, and that is going to be the play. Quite unfortunately, the Urshifu actually went in for the protect here, and with that move, oh wow, okay, that wasn't enough though. That wasn't enough to take down the Venusaur, but even so, right? Even so, Kyogre is now down. Not down, but now asleep. Now sleeping into our Princess Beauty here. Sydney still has one more Pokemon at the back, and Ditto right here could just, you know, just prompt in anyone into the side of Yanagi and basically win this one. And here we go with a Quick Claw. 23% is not going to, oh wow, okay, 23%, but with that Sucker Punch is going to be the one that's faster still, but of course it's going to go down with that low of a health.
Yeah, and you know, Frenzy Plant coming into the Kyogre, going to be enough to pick up the knockout for sure, but now the Venusaur on Yosuke's side has to go for a regenerating turn, which means that if Sydney has any way of doing any damage whatsoever, which he definitely does, Yosuke's not going to be able to do anything this turn to stop that damage, go for any sleep powders or anything else. So Regieleki coming in for Sydney, and it is going to be the first match going to Belgium, 1-0 up on this match. And you know, this could be the turning point for Belgium. Could you imagine just how much hype would be in that team if it was Belgium that won this match from 3-0 down, came back, won 5 matches on the bounce? How cool would that be as a farewell to Belgium, to knock out the first seed from the group, or at least, you know, win that match and come back? But yeah, speaking about the match, I mean, it's just so it's quite a difficult one for Yosuke to position himself in, really. There's so much offensive pressure coming out from Sydney's side of the field, and yeah, he's really got to go back to the drawing board now and see if he can maybe match that Tailwind, or do something slightly different to just not get water spouted all the way all the way to the end of the game.
Right, I'd have to give huge props into Sydney on game number 1. Sydney was able to just set up immediately, and from there, as you just mentioned, just water spout all the way down, and just take everyone out into the side of Yanagi. And I'd have to correct myself as well, by the way, that it's not 23% for the quick claw. It is actually just 20%. So here we have it, game number 2, Sydney versus Yanagi. Belgium versus Japan. The farewell match for Belgium is now starting. Let's have a champion time.
Indeed, we shall. These two players, we'll see what they decided to lead out. Is the Urshifu and the Tornadus for Yosuke, and that ever faithful Tornadus Kyogre coming out for Sydney. And we saw the Focus Sash coming out from that Urshifu in the previous match, so likelihood is that the Urshifu is going to be faster than the Kyogre on Sydney's side of the field, and so Sydney has to be a little bit careful about how he positions himself in this match. And of course, with that Unseen Fist ability, the Urshifu is going to be able to launch its attacks pretty consistently into the Kyogre slot. So even though it could get targeted down by the Tornadus on Sydney's side of the field, can't be knocked out before it can do damage to the Kyogre on Sydney's side. And that's pretty pivotal, because it looks like in this game the Water Spout isn't going to be doing nearly as much damage as it was in the first.
Right, but look at this, the Wicked Blow is now going to go into that of Kyogre. Going to deal a lot of damage here, of course, guaranteed critical hit, but Hurricane to just take down this Urshifu. But it is going to be a Sash, of course. It's compared to like on game number 1, right? As we've seen, that was a Scarfed Urshifu. This one is going to be a Sash one. But as you just mentioned, this Water Spout is not dealing as much damage now into Yanagi's side, but still quite a lot of damage for Sydney here. But we have to remember as well that Yanagi has Tailwind for their side, and if we are going to see the Torkoal at the back, just to remove the rain and of course reduce the damage from the Kyogre, gets him some setups, and then we are going to see some survival from the side of Yanagi, and of course additional speed into that of the Venusaur. But that is not what's going to happen, it seems, as we are going to get the Tailwind, and of course Hurricane is just going to bring down the Kyogre from the side of Sydney.
Yeah, and revealing that Life Orb on the Tornadus on Yosuke's side of the field as Sleep Powder goes into that Tornadus on Sydney's side, and that's a really nice turn for Yosuke. He's managed to get a lot of good damage onto the field here, but we see here it's the Ditto coming back in, and that's going to be great for Sydney, because now he doesn't just get one Tornadus on his side of the field, he gets two.
Right.
Which actually, pretty significant, right? Because that Venusaur can't be carrying a Focus Sash, because we've already seen that on the Urshifu. Tornadus doesn't usually knock out Tornadus with at least a single Hurricane. So that Venusaur is going to be really pressured. And as you were saying before, if the Torkoal's in the back, that's going to change the dynamic. But based on the first game, I'd be really surprised to see it now. It could be that just Porygon 2 as a damage sponge.
Right.
Yeah, and of course as well, we don't know how long that Tornadus on Sydney's side of the field is going to be staying asleep. So Hurricane going out into the Cobra Berry Venusaur here, going to be enough to not going to be enough to pick up the knockout here. So yeah, good opportunity there for Yosuke to get another Sleep Powder onto the field.
And now we are going to see the Focus Sash into the side of Sydney's Tornadoes, but the Sleep Powder is going to put the imposter emergency meeting. We have an imposter is among us, going down to sleep as well with the Tornadoes of Sydney. And now we have the Quick Claw into that of the Ditto, but with this status, I don't think that is going to be going to do a lot of damage in this at this point.
Well, it's Ditto is now the fastest Pokemon asleep on the field, activating that Quick Claw, and definitely, as you mentioned, not doing anything this turn. Hurricane coming out from Tornadus, not enough to pick up the KO on the Ditto. That could be quite vital if Tornadus on Sydney's side. Oh, wasn't able to wake up, of course. Gonna get knocked out by the Sludge Bomb from the Venusaur, and now it's going to be Regieleki coming back on the field. And if this Ditto does wake up fairly quickly, it could be quite difficult for Yosuke to come back from this, because the Tornadus is definitely going to get knocked out from something like an Electro Web from the Regieleki on this turn.
Right.
Unlikely with a Life Orb set that you tend to carry Protect as well. We've seen in fact the set from the Tornadus that Sydney was able to copy. So yeah, it could be quite interesting here if the Tornadus on Sydney's side of the field does manage to wake up, does manage to launch an attack into that Venusaur, and there is no defensive play from Yosuke.
Right, I have to agree with you that if and only if the Sussy Tornadoes actually wakes up, then it is going to deal a lot of damage into Yosuke. But we do see the Torkoal at the back here. Oh my goodness. Okay, as you mentioned, right, any hit from the Regieleki is just going to deal a lot of damage against Yanagi here. And it's not going to be enough. It is going to be enough to take down the Tornado, as you mentioned. And of course, it's going to slow down the Torkoal as well. But what we need here, what Sydney needs here is for this Ditto to actually wake up to deal a lot of damage. And now with the Tailwind from the side of Yanagi, there's also the Qualifier into the side of Yanagi. Then it's definitely going to be the fastest one in the field right now. Yosuke is going to be the fastest one right now in the side of the field. So if Ditto wouldn't be able to wake up here and maybe get that Quick Claw once again, then this is looking pretty bad for Sydney.
Yeah, Quick Claw activation here with a wake up and getting through the confusion that proc from the Hurricane.
Right, that's one more.
Yeah, that could be spicy, let's say. We see the Torkoal Protect, no Quick Claw activation, so Frenzy Plant just going to knock out the Regieleki. Definite game 2 there to Yosuke here as the Regieleki goes back to Sydney. Ditto stays asleep, Protect coming out from the Torkoal, meaning no damage coming out from this turn, but yeah, Tornadus has Ditto that is looking like a Tornadus right now, has no way to hit 2 targets at once. So yeah, definitely going to be game 2 to Yosuke.
Right. I really like the I really like the adjustments here coming in from Yanagi. They were able to just turn things around, and Sydney wasn't really able to do anything in game number 2 compared to what happened in game number 1, where Sydney was the one, dealing a lot of damage, basically having to set up and just, basically prompting everyone into the side of a Yanagi. But this time around, I think it shows why Japan is one of the powerhouses that we have in Victory Road World Cup of Pokemon VGC.
Yeah, exactly. And, you got to give shout outs to the item choices there as well. Focus Sash and Urshifu means that you can't have it on Venusaur. So what do you do instead? You just make sure that the Cobra Berry is enough to stop that Venusaur going down to a Hurricane. You saw it do more than 50%, so it would have knocked it out without any sort of other item going on there. So now that Sydney knows that, he's going to have to adjust, and didn't have to worry about it in game 1 because Water Spout did all the damage. So game 2, it's going to have to go back to the drawing board a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see that Regieleki coming in earlier. I didn't actually see Sydney locked in so quickly. I didn't actually know which Pokemon were coming out into the field. He knows what he's doing, definitely. So we'll have to see how Yosuke adjusts to this match, because, one of the other things that was really interesting was how Sydney brought out that Ditto, and whether or not that Yosuke is scared of that. If Ditto could copy the Venusaur and maybe launch some sleep powders on its own while resisting the sleep powder coming out from Venusaur and Yosuke's side of the field, you could have a completely different and potentially much slower game than what we've had so far, which is just, try to get the damage off as quickly as possible.
Right, and let's see what's going to be the adjustment here from Sydney. As you mentioned, right, in game number 1, quite fortunate for Sydney that the setup was basically served in a silver platter for Sydney, and Yanagi was just able to adjust from that. And now let's find out in game number 3, the farewell match for Belgium. Let's find out what's going to be the adjustment here from Sydney, if they're going to be able to take this one stream win or not. Let's have a champion time.
Indeed. That Regieleki coming out with the Tornadus in the early game is going to be quite good actually for Yosuke, bringing out the same lead that he brought out in game 1, that Porygon 2 and the Venusaur, wanting to maybe switch things up a little bit, have that Torkoal in the back and do some work there. But really going to be quite crucial for Yosuke that has 2 Pokemon there that are not going to be affected really by Regieleki. Certainly not initially, and Regieleki just going on the offensive. We'll see how much damage this does. A lot less than it needs, I fear, as the Hurricane does get avoided. As the Tortoise goes to sleep for Sydney. My God. So this Porygon 2 is completely free to go for a Trick Room. Yosuke not scared of that taunt whatsoever. Twisting Dimensions, so now the Porygon 2 and the Venusaur are the fastest Pokemon on the field, and Sydney's now on the back foot.
Oh no. So definitely, of course, we are not going to see if, of course, Yanagi brings brought in the Torkoal. We're not going to be seeing that quite yet, as of course it's going to be counter intuitive to bring out the Torkoal now, of course, with the Qualifier as well. This is a huge game for Yanagi right now, and we're going to be seeing this sussy little Venusaur as well into the side of the field. Sydney's side is looking pretty bad right now, and of course with this Ice Beam, it's not going to be enough though, but it's going to do a lot of damage into the Tornadoes. But with this Sludge Bomb, okay, it was enough. Now, not only was Yanagi able to set up a lot, but was also able to knock out one of the Pokemons from Sydney. This has turned from a bad situation to a very bad situation.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing now to stop Yosuke from bringing that Torkoal in at some point in the game. Wait for the Kyogre to be on the field and then just turn it off. Bringing that Torkoal in, turning on the Venusaur, so to speak. And unfortunately, Regieleki doesn't have too many options to deal damage still to anything on Yosuke's side. And of course, being the slowest thing on the field, it does have to get through both of Yosuke's Pokemon before being able to do anything significant. So Yosuke really on the back foot here. Sydney on the back foot, in fact. I correct myself. And he knows that, going for the Protect with Regieleki, try to stall out a few more turns of Trick Room.
Right. I think at this point, even if Sydney just blocks in and of course prolong the turns here for the Trick Room, of course, just to remove it from the field, we still don't know whether Yanagi still has the Torkoal at the back. So even without the Porygon, of course, we still have the Tornadoes at the back as well. Of course, Tailwind, and then Tailwind Qualifier Venusaur. We saw how scary that was, and Sydney wasn't able to do anything. And with the Sludge Bomb, as we've seen on the last turn, was enough to just take out the imposter Venusaur. And right now, Kyogre is just going to protect. And Era Impulse right now from the Porygon 2. Very good prediction here that a very good attacking side here for Yanagi, knowing that seeing that it's not going to be enough to do a lot into that of the Kyogre, but right now, as you just mentioned, Regieleki is not going to deal that much of a damage to any of the Pokemon into the side of Yanagi. And if that's going to be the last Pokemon for Sydney, then I don't think City is going to be able to win this one.
No, an Eerie Impulse is a nice move there. You know, you cover the Kyogre attacking there with something like a Water Spout with Frenzy Plant. You also stop the Regieleki doing too much damage at all. So now just, you know, Porygon 2 in Trick Room, spreading around some Eerie Impulse, making sure that, you know, damage is mitigated as much as possible, because Frenzy Plant can actually miss. So just not taking the risk there, but not this time. Frenzy Plant does come out from the Venusaur, does pick up the knockout on Kyogre. It's Regieleki versus the world, and the world is looking pretty threatening to me, to be honest. Looking like Yosuke is going to be taking this game pretty convincingly.
Right, and even when Regieleki is the fastest one right now, quite unfortunately, and even with the farewell match here for this side of Belgium, it seems as if Yanagi is not going to let it slide, as they are one of the powerhouses. Their pride is on the line. Even when it's a farewell match for Belgium, they're not backing down and showing their pride in this match. As we can see, some ice beams over that Regieleki, and of course some hits as well, and I think that's gonna be enough to take down Regieleki, and Yanagi wins this game 2-1 for the side of Japan.
Yeah, definitely. But got to give some shout outs to Sydney here, taking the first game for Belgium in this match. Might have now gone to a 4-0 for the side of Japan, making it at least a tie at the worst case for Japan. But Sydney showing a real skill there in the way that he executed game 1. Came back in games 2 and 3 and had some tight sets. But Yosuke just managing to take it home, and you know, it really interesting team composition, and showing us why using 2 different weathers can be really effective, especially when you don't want to play that Kyogre mirror and you just want to instead change up the format of the game and play something different against that mirror match.
Right. And you know, Yanagi bringing out quite a convincing team as well. Has some counters over weather teams. Also has counters into TR teams. You know, with the Venusaur, could go fast if it wanted to, could go slow if it needs to. And from there, Yanagi just showed us quite a huge match, and that is going to be a win for Japan. And for more action, please don't go anywhere, as we will be right back for more matches. Once again, we have in your casters for this game. My name is JJ, and this is Ben, and we will be right back.